New developments on a story we first brought to you months ago. The private review of a former Longmeadow Public Schools librarian who was arrested on child pornography charges has been completed. That's according to an email that we obtained from the superintendent to Longmeadow parents. After 55-year-old Scott McGinley was arrested, police found 100 images that were consistent with child sexual abuse material on his electronics. He has since retired from Longmeadow schools, but out of an abundance of caution, the superintendent announced an investigation into the matter. The email with the investigation results reads in part, "Based upon my investigation, I find no evidence that any Longmeadow students were victims of any sexually inappropriate behavior by Scott McGinley. Further, I find no evidence that any school administrators knew or should have known of McGinley's alleged proclivity to engage in sexually inappropriate behavior involving children. Staff interviews and a search of digital records did not reveal any relevant complaints to any school administrators by staff, parents, or students." Longmeadow Public Schools added that they are continuing to take the steps to maintain safe and supportive schools.